Okay, just starting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and friends beyond the binary, it's time for the podcaster who was recently described as having superpowers by our good friend Charmaine. It's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that's here to put you to sleep. Listen, I just want to take a split second to thank everyone. I know I don't always, sometimes I miss a chance to thank someone individually or between the podcast and work and all this, I can't always take a second to show my gratitude. So I hope all of you that know that, whether you're supporting the show on Patreon or telling someone about the show, using the Amazon link or just listening or sending me a nice email, whatever the gesture of kindness or support is, I pour all the gratitude I have into the show. And I hope you can feel that gratitude showering down on you, because I really couldn't have made over 400 episodes, almost 450 episodes without you. So thank you so much. And I hope the quality that I try to put into every episode, the quality dulls, you can feel my deep, deep, deep and genuine thanks behind those. Thank you so much, everyone. And if you want an easy way to support the show, a free way, if you use Amazon and use our Amazon link, sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. It'll be the same Amazon you always use, the same price as everything. We'll just get a small commission on what you buy. Mr. Bart's got a song about it.
Maybe none of the advertisers excite. Maybe you don't got the funds for Patreon right now. You told all your friends about the show. You've done everything right, you know. But you can go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. Bookmark it so you can find it whenever you want, and use it whenever you shop at Amazon.
So it's the easy way to support the show. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. It works in Canada, the UK, and the US. When you put your hand on the refrigerator tomorrow, say, next time I'm at Amazon, I'm going to sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon to support the show. Thank you. And housekeeping, we're on the web, www.sleepwithmepodcast.com. Older episodes are there. You can comment on the show notes and get a hold of me at, feedback@sleepwithmepodcast.com. On Twitter, @DearScooter. Thank you, everyone that's sharing from their podcasting apps on Twitter. Humongous way to spread the word about the show. Facebook, we're at Sleep With Me Podcast. I want to thank Chris Posterson from Sounds Like an Earful, who does our theme music. The legend, Carl W., the man with the W, the Carl with the W, who edited this episode. Jonathan Mann, who went viral this week with his brilliant Hillary Shimmy song. So congratulations. We know him as the Mystery Bard, and he's at jonathanmann.net. If you want to commission a song from him, you probably get in line. There's a lot of pundits in line, I believe. Is that a word? Pundit. Pundit. So that's Jonathan Mann on the lullabies. Listeners have a Facebook group over at sleepwithmepodcast.com/nods, NODS. And the wonderful moderators over there are Summer and Sarah, Julie and Jennifer, and Laura and Lyda. And that's it. Let's get on with this. Let's get some superpowers brewing here. All right, hey, you all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that's here to put you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. And what we do is create a safe place where you can set aside whatever's been keeping you awake, whether it's thinking, feeling, while you're listening on a podcast, touching your fingers, which I'm doing now. So listing, finger touching in a list format, physical sensations, outside noises, changes in routine. Big stuff or just something that happened at lunch today, whatever it is, it's real, it's affecting your sleep. And so the safe place is that you can set that aside. I'm going to try to distract you from that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. Or in the case of shift workers, or, third shift and night shift workers, across the deep, dark day. I'm going to use lulling, soothing tones, prose overload, which is now not patented or trademarked, but should be. Word smushing, word mushing, word, overlapping words. I think that's what we decided word smushing was called. You see, does he do story slams? And they say he doesn't, yeah, that's what he calls them, story slam. We do some story slams here. But, like a slam's probably the worst possible word to use in a sleep podcast. So we call them story slams. Story slobs. He doesn't do story slams. Those are actually called poetry slams, by the way, Scooter. Why the heck don't they have story slams? I'm gonna drop in this cafe. I'm gonna slam a story down, and then isn't that good? Okay, you don't get how poetry slam works, do you? Well, if you can slam poetry, why can't you slam a story? Actually, you couldn't even say slam a poetry, so there you go. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna get back to my story slobbing. A bit like a bit like a story drool. I don't actually do much drooling in the night. Sometimes I guess I do. I'm not much of a drooler though, just in case. But metaphysical drooling, I do a lot of that for sure. And probably, if my mouth's full of too many words, there's some drool, stumbling out of my mouth, letters and stuff mostly. So that's when if you do any recaps of this podcast and you say, is he stuttering? Is he mumbling? And I say, no, it's a word slobber. I've got, I need a bib. I need a word bib. And you say, okay, so let's sit down. I say, thanks, Charlie. Thanks for having me on. So you started a podcast to put people to sleep because you thought adults needed bedtime stories. Check. I thought adults could use a bedtime story, a little story to help them fall asleep. Now tell us about what you're wearing. Well, this is a word bib, Charlie. Thanks for asking, because this is actually what I'm here to talk about, not my podcast. I'm here to talk about word bibs for adults. I'm sorry, did you say word bib? Well, I started to say word bib, Charlie, but a little bit came out my mouth and ran down my bib. And later, because I've seen the future, by the way, Charlie, during the great letter shortage that's coming, caused by the culling of the mowers. Did you say culling of the mowers? Well, I tried to say culling of the mowers. You're right, Charlie. Charlie, I think you need a word bib. You say, well, I just think it's a little bit a word bib. It just doesn't. And I say, well, don't worry, Charlie. The doubters will be the ones without enough letters to do anything. And he said, okay, tell me more about this culling of the mowers. I said, no, Charlie, I'm here to talk about word bibs. But just say it with me. Word bib. Doesn't it make you want to buy one? Okay, Scooter. I thought we booked you to talk about Sleep With Me podcast. No. That's not going to do me any good. The word bib's the actual marketable product, Charlie. Word bibs. One for $15.99, two for $20. Get a word bib for yourself and someone you love. Word bibs. Do you have a website set up for these? No, I don't. Not yet, Charlie. Do you think I should do a Kickstarter for word bibs? Okay, could you tell us, what does a word bib do? And then can we move on from the word bibs? Well, Charlie, word bib catches letters, sometimes words. It's actually, you're right, Charlie, you got me. It's deceptive. It's really a letter bib for the most part. It catches sentence fragments, but you got to clean it out. And believe it or not, excuse me, Charlie, I'm in the middle of a podcast intro. So awkward. Could you wear this word bib for a little while? Did you say word bib? No, I said word bib, and then someone got into my even parts of words, parts of letters. You say, is that half a B in there? And I know you're having trouble. Remember when I used to have that alphabet cereal, Charlie? What was it called? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I think it was like frosted letters, but that's not what it was called. It was like letters, and sometimes there'd be those great marshmallows in there. Like a Lucky Charms, there's other stuff in there, but this just had the letters with I think they were coasted, covered in excuse me, Charlie, I got to get back to this intro. Now I'm talking about kids cereal, and I'm just here to sell some word bibs, but I'll be back. Sorry about that. Sorry, especially if you're new here. Whoa, boy. You just fell right into the, like, so, but that's just something that happens. This podcast, words, you know, they get it's their bedtime words. You know, you got your daytime sentences. You get power verbs. I think that's the thing. Soft power. You got people that say, you got your adjective lovers and your adverb. They say you can't use any adjective. I don't know whichever one they say. That's a weak sentence. You know, don't use those. And then you got your, you know, you got that, your freaking, the patriarchy of gerunds. I think that's related to patriarchy. Now, don't quote me on that. Could be ageism in gerunds. You're probably right. You're right about that. But over on this podcast, when it becomes nighttime, your words, you know, they get a little fumbly. Ideally, they take on a pillowy, you know, if you're eating words for breakfast like I used to, and I still wish I could, you know, that's one thing. But at bedtime, you don't want to consume your words. You want to, you know, snuggle up with them. You know, and if you say you want me to snuggle up with the words that you're drooling out of your mouth, and I'd say no, I'm like, no, that's for a different. You're mixing your metaphors, believe it or not, and you're doing that. One part of your brain. Okay, great. So, if you're new here, here's what. Let me see if I can reset. This podcast is meant to take your mind off of stuff and distract you. And again, every once in a while, I like to do this. While I was just, I bet you could picture me in a bib. But you know, you say, what does Scooter look like? A grandfather or you see, okay, never mind. Just picture a grown man and a grown man in his bib. You know, that's all you got to do. You see, and while you were doing that, were you thinking about any of the stuff that was keeping you awake? You know, because that's my distraction power. But the thing is, obviously, you say, okay, I can't, and this is a common reaction, so I'm not pointing anyone out. I'm not pointing you out. You say, is he serious about these word bibs or is he joking? And a seasoned listener would say, he doesn't know. Scooter doesn't know. We don't know. I listened to 400 episodes, and I still don't know if he listens to Knox or not. And I would say exactly, I don't know. I'd say this may be viable, this word bib idea. But first, I got to get you to sleep. Obviously, I got to, you know, proof is in the pudding. I think there's pudding in my. How about some word pudding? I mean, they got alphabet soup, and then you got your great puddings. Other than your straight puddings, you have your puddings with stuff in them. You got rice pudding, and you have tapioca pudding. Well, why the hell can't we have word pudding, huh? I mean, it's kind of. This podcast is like 40% word pudding. But anyway, so the podcast is meant to take you, but you clearly don't take me seriously. I mean, no doubt, you know, no doubt about it. But you don't need to greet me with any skepticism either, because it's like I'm just here to take your mind off stuff, be a little goofy. Mostly I'm here because I've suffered in the deep, dark night. I've lied there and stared at the ceiling, and my thoughts have taken root. And one ways that I got through those times was listening to stuff that would take my mind off of it, to distract me. And so if you'll let me, if I can earn your trust, and believe me, I know it'll take a few times if I can do it. But if I can, I'd be honored to distract you. So what we'll do here tonight is, this is a Sunday night show, so we're going to be talking. Now, if you don't watch these shows, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do a story based on some Spanish and some English words I tried to use based on the Colombian version of Breaking Bad. Then we'll do a recap of an episode of the Colombian version of Breaking Bad. But again, it'll just be like a little story. and you say you can kind of follow it and whatever. Then I'll recap the corresponding episode of Breaking Bad, but again in a story, a way that's mostly spoiler and sense free. But you're under no obligation to listen. You're also under no pressure to fall asleep because I'll be here at least an hour. And I'll be doing my best to kind of be like light entertainment. Like the freaking food you could get on a plane. Now you say, I'm freaking hungry. And they say, well, we have a light snack for $10.99. You say, what is it? It's a tuna fish. You say, why the hell are you serving tuna fish sandwich on a plane? That doesn't make any... Anyway, sorry. I don't know where that came from. I guess they had a gripey part of me just burst out there. My job is to counteract all that with like light entertainment or light snack. I'm not even a light snack, clearly. So that's it. I guess that's all I have to say. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you coming and trying this and overcoming some skepticism. And I'm going to do my best to help you fall asleep because that's what I strive and yearn to do. All right, let's keep the train moving. And thanks, everybody. Before we get on with the show, if you can use our Amazon link, sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. It's the same Amazon you always use, but we will get a smaller commission on your purchases through the Amazon affiliate program. And it helps us pay the bills here. I appreciate it. sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon in the U.S., the U.K., and Canada. Thanks. Hey, so this is a little story from episode 55, but it's an interesting one. It's a famous tale, actually, the tale of Plata Sucia, the tale of the dirty silver, and I mean silverware. And what happened was that there was all these children in Uganda playing with this Mir Gusta Mooch. It looked like they liked playing with it much, and they were playing a game where they were pretending to eat, and they were saying, "Ooh, que rico! Ooh, this is good and delicious, sabroso." Oh, and then this is just there wasn't the parents on the scene. They were very intelligent kids. They said, "Y otro mama," and there's another mom coming. Postre, she's bringing dessert. And the kids pretended, they said, "Oh, mira esta tentación. Look at this temptation." And then all the other kids said, "Tentación." And then someone pretended, they said, "What are you all doing here, eating dessert for almuerzo, for lunch?" "Yeah, we're eating dessert for lunch with silverware." And they said, "You're going to need some antecitos, antacid." And then the kids stood, they said, "Would you want to repeat that to us?" And they said, "Well, have you heard that there's a princess in Cantaria who would love some silverware? She doesn't. Their kingdom lost the silverware." And the children said, "Are you some?" They said, "We're just eating with the silver." And they said, the person said, "Well, Manihar, I'll drive you in the silverware to this princess. Let's go." And these jovencitos, these were youngsters. And as they drove, and don't worry, this wasn't anything strange. This was like I think this was a pink elephant that was driving them. And they were singing the song, "Secas yo lavo benzina, dry wash my neighbor's, sucia. I'm dry washing my neighbor's silverware." And then they put the top down. This was one of those cars that the top goes down, convertible. And they said, "Que rico and Sirio, man, we're seriously rich." And then the pink elephant turned off the road, and they said, "Que te pasa? What's wrong?" And they said, "Respira tranquilo, to chill. We gotta go. Sentar bueno examina tacones. Be good at my heels and sit in an exam." And they said, I'm sorry, what? A clinica? This isn't a clinic of understanding. And the elephant said, no one stress. So we're going, don't get stressed. We're going to save the princess by delivering the dry washed silverware. And they said, well, how are we going to deliver it? Like Hazme Bueno Reco Star? Will they let us lay it at the feet of the throne? And then another child said, son lo que más se esta bendito ahorita. Like, what they're selling, what are they going to give us? Basically, what are they going to sell us on to get us to give them the silverware right now? And I'll tell you what, this is why you don't trust pink elephants always. The pink elephant got this look in his eye and said, El de banano que este como en agui, the banana that is booming. And the kid said, we're going to get booming bananas for our family silverware. And the pink elephant said, oh, yes, sí. Ingresos exioso para nada raro. Successful income for anything unusual. And the kid said, sabes montaña de plata. We got mountains of this silverware in our bags. And then they got on an autopista highway, and it was clear the pink elephant was lost. They said, pensarlo déjame. Let me think. And then this was like, I think this might have been a bit like the rabbit in Alice in Wonderland, because this clearly knew, this pink elephant knew more, because it said, oh, unos papeles que tengo que firmar. I have papers you kids need to sign. And they said, are these booming banana recovery papers? We're going to get booming bananas for our family silverware. And the big elf start driving and say, llenarte todo el día. You'll be able to fill your lives all day with booming bananas. And in fact, the scientists of this town coming up this kingdom, Mejore, they're working on improving the booming of the bananas. And then there was there was a sencillo, like a simple look on the kid's face, because they said, what does a booming banana do? And then they went up a hill bajando más. They had to go down more hills. Then the weather empeorar got worse, and the kids started to de vuelvo menos unos. They said, this is a return. This isn't going to be a good return. It's going to be less about how we're going to get back. And then the melodramatic gasp of the pink elephant said, aseguro banano. And then they pointed, and above, so there's, on the hill was this giant castle. Above the giant castle, fuera, outside of it, but higher than that, was a giant banana tree. And then they went to a guard's gate, and they said, Entregan, we're here delivering the brillante, the sparklies, And then they got up to the entrance of the castle, but there was a vieja sospechosa, a suspicious old woman there. And they said, yeah, we're here for trade silverware for banana booms. So we're here to trade for the banana booms. The woman said, nunca. And they said, what? No. We're here to trade our silverware for booming bananas. And she said, Giro mascota. And they said, a pet twist? What the heck are you talking about? And they said, un seriasi para amarlo y repartarlo. And the kid said, one defined to love and respect. What? We're just here to trade our family silverware for banana booms. And then she pointed at the pink elephant and she said, "Que mascota has pensado?" And so then she pointed over at the pink elephant and she said, "Que mascota has pensando?" Which the pet you thought? Bueno, un perro no puede ser. A good dog cannot be. And they said, "You deceived us? Why'd you deceive us, pink elephant? What's going on?" And the pink elephant said, "Porque no tenemos tiempo," because we have no time. And they said, "What?" And they said, "Un gato, como conseguirse un gato?" A cat. The queen has achieved this as a cat. And then it pointed at a fake crown. P.A.S.T.O. snagged a crown. Parte fisica, physical part, voleta, flips. And they said, "What are you talking? Like, are you a dog? You're really a dog pretending to be a elephant? And really? Like, you're just mad because you're in a kingdom that a cat runs." And they said, "Claro, EMP is uno, clear. It's clear, And then one will begin." And the kids said they weren't happy, and they said, por polirse toda el dia. You'll be polishing this silver all day. Come along." And the dog, it was still in elephant mode, though. So, hey, una cosa negocio. They said, "This is a business thing now. Gato, mujeres, or mascota, woman, cat, or pet. She's the queen. Hembra. And cuando que oiga, when you hear bananas booming, avisar, you better warn the other dogs not to make, at the gates, prender acá, turn back, turn there." And then this was a little confusing for the kids because when they walked in on the queen, she was smoking fumando hierba, like herb. She was smoking weed, which is catnip in this case. But then the queen, the princess, she said, "Siga, follow me." And they said, "What is this place?" She said, "Vicioso Raya a me. This is my vices bay." And then it was really her room, and then, where she smoked up. And then she said, "Cabecera, this is my headboard for wearing, for my asuntos, my affairs." And the kids, they didn't know what that meant anyway. So she said, "Miro eso y no es noticia." I know, okay, that's not news to you. La gente se olvido de ese asunto. I guess people forget that it matters to kids. And she said, "Kids, you have my seguro, my insurance." And they said, "We have a bunch of silver we took from our parents' houses. Soon that'll generar muchas preguntas." And the cat queen, she took she said, "Esa plata es mía, the money's mine." And they said, "Well, siguen un contacto." We followed a contact here. Altruissimo, out of good nature. Hicite perfectamente. And we think we did pretty well. Golpe, you can't knock what we did. And, the dogs, they probably want to ganarte, take over your kingdom. And we could tell the dogs, realistas, be realistic. Ido dos pasos, be gone 2 steps, at a time. Quitar, remove them from the kingdom. But and then she said, "Tercera vez, this is the 3rd time the dogs have tried to take over my kingdom." And then she said, "Nacia para eso." But I was born for, to rule this kingdom. I just wanted some, silver. And then they heard a series of coolgies outside crashes. And the kid said to her, "Guardello said, you keep that silver. de hello, let it out, But in cargo, we're here to charge you for a bunch of banana booming bananas or whatever. We heard your kingdom has them. And the queen, she said, I'm having a little case of deja vu. And they said, what's that? And she said, well, some semejante, something similar had happened. Manchanda, a bunch of spotted children came before. And Nagara denied them booming bananas, and it got chlorata. It got heated. I had to, we went back and forth, and Gennaro, I sent them away from my kingdom. And the kid well says, Sido muy infantil. It's been very childish, your behavior, but just give us the booming bananas, supuesto, like you're supposed to. None of this espantosa, none of this trying to, intimidate us or anything. And we'll always say, en que anda, the gato queen walks, and, podamos hicimos, we did, termino ya, we met at terms, we had our terms, so go get us the booming bananas. Otherwise, you'll have to start considering, retiro and serio, like seriously considering retirement. And she said, the queen said, adelante comunes. Actually, it's more common to just forward the booming bananas to your house so that you don't get caught bringing them home with the missing silver. And she goes, I'll meet your thing, vidas, your whole lives you'll have booming bananas. So many capaz de cuidar, you will be able to care for them. And the kid said, no, Creo, I don't believe that we don't even know what booming bananas are, actually, our queen. And she said, well, you'd have to go to the despacho, the booming bananas office. But I think your kids, you'll figure out what a booming banana is. And, they went back, and the queen, she met their deal. She sent them the booming bananas. Parents all wondered, you never use silver anyway, so it wasn't until like Thanksgiving or something. And then they just said, where do we put that silver? But outside the gates was the pink elephant dog, Esperando, Desquitara, Habia ten tranquilo, sitting, waiting, biding its time for one day. And that's the end of this story. All right, so this is episode 45, and it opens with a campfire. There's a pot on the campfire. There's a dog. There's wood. And you say, where are we? What's going on here? And there's a pond, and there's a peeing going on in the pond. And then it's kind of like, oh, geez, this is Walt's house. It's in disarray. You see, this is, and then we see a car pull up, and bearded Walt gets out, and he's got glasses on. He's in an old maroon car, and I mean the house is just, you see, what's happened here? And Walt goes into the house, and there's a lot of graffiti there. On one wall, there's a Heisenberg sign, and then Walt goes upstairs in the house, and he's looking around for something, and we get a close-up of Walt's beard, and it's very scruffy and thick. And then Walt's looking around, and he says, geez, where'd I hide that thing? I hid something here. And then he finds it, and then he goes out of his house, and his neighbor sees him come out of the house, and she's speechless. She's like And Walt says, hey, what's up? And she's still like in total shock from seeing Walt. And she drops her oranges out of her bag, and the episode opens. And after the opening, we see Henry, he stumbles out of the bathroom right where we left off in the last episode. And he's got the William Blake book in his hand, and he's in shock, and he's... I can't read this writing. Oh, paranoid. He's paranoid that he's going to get caught with the book. So he's looking around. He's in a daze. And then he goes and he hides the book in Maria's bag. And kind of limps through the house, limps down the hall. he looks out and the garden party's still going on from last episode. So Maria and Valentina and Walt. So garden party's still going on. And, there's a conversation leaking through. Henry's breathing. And the way he breathes, he has this look on his face like he's he's cold, like either physically or emotionally. And then he comes out to the garden party after he's hidden the book, and he's kind of like he's like, oh, my tummy hurts, oh, Dolor, stomacha. And he's like, Maria, we got to roll, we got to get out of here. And he almost snarls at Walt. He makes this snarling look. And then they get out to the front of the house, and Henry almost runs to the car and, drives away. Walt's trying to catch up with him, and he's trying to leave. And Walt can sense this, so he goes after Henry kind of but not in an aggressive way. He's goes up the room. He's like, hey, what's up, man? You got a tummy ache? And Henry says nothing. He rolls up the window, and he goes, Maria, Maria. And then they roll out. And if the look on Walt's face, I'm kind of like, does he know? Double question mark. And then we see his neighbor from the opening, and she's happy. And she's trimming her hedges. And they say, hey, Walt, hey, how you doing? And then we see Henry and Maria. They're in the car. Henry's driving. And Henry kind of starts to drift into thoughts and out of focus. And Maria's just chattering and chattering, rambling on. And Henry clearly doesn't feel good. He has to stop the car. And then it breaks. And then we see Maria and Henry. And they come home because Henry didn't feel good. He had to go get a checkup. And she helps him inside. And then he kind of distracts Maria, and he hides her book. And then, what does this say? Maria's concerned. And then Henry's like, you know what, Maria, I know we just got home from the doctor, but I need to go out to my brew house in the garage and be by myself. That's going to make me feel better. And so then he goes out there and he pulls out Gail's notes. He starts looking at the inscription to Walt, Guido in this case, Guido. So he has Guido's notes versus Gail's notes. And he checks the writing, and there's these close-ups, and he's matching letters. And then he kind of rises up, and his mouth is open. And as it hits him, his lip twitches, which I think was very good acting by this actor who was just done a wonderful, wonderful job and a different take on the character. And as his lip twitches, the camera gets closer. And then we cut to the car wash, and Walt's all cool boss at the car wash. And he's like, hey, welcome to work, buddy. Hey, what's up, guys? And then he tries to he's got some idea he's trying to convince Cielo of. And she's like, no way. And I couldn't tell if it was money or cars or what, but it's just no say. And her arms are even crossed. And then we cut to a scene, and Henry's wearing a blue T-shirt. And he looks like a wild man. He just looks terrible. And some agents pull up to his house, and they have evidence or boxes. And Maria is heading out to work, it looks like. And then Henry sends the agents out, and he's just he's on lockdown in his garage. And he's busting out the case files and the pictures and watching old videos and looking at old mess. And then he brings out the twins' drawing of Heisenberg, the children, almost children level of drawing. And he holds it up and he's like, holy crap, this is Walt's. And then we go back to the car wash. and Lydia's at the car wash, and she pulls up like a customer, and she's trying to talk to Walt like a customer, but also get in some talking, and Cielo's in the background. She immediately suspects something. And Lydia seems to be like asking some sort of favor of Walt, and Walt's trying to get her. He's like, hit the road, but it's like so obvious. They're trying to say, hey, would you like the extra scrubbing bubbles? And they say, no. I need the double super scrubbing bubbles. And then Cielo like knows something's up. So after Lydia leaves, Cielo goes after Lydia. After Lydia leaves, did I say that? Cielo goes after her. And she goes, never come here again. Never come back to this place. Then we see, Mono. I thought that said Mario. But we get a callback to the character, the beloved, I don't know if this is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, but Mono and Tripa. And Mono and Tripa, a.k.a. Sweaty Mohawk, are all chilling with Jose, and they're talking kind of like, I think it was the barroom philosophy of cat petting. Definitely worth a watch if you want to see it, because they do this whole routine about petting cats. Gato and Mono's, I think he was talking about his theory of petting cats, and he's got this method, and then Sweaty Mohawk is kind of like, no, this can't be, he goes, no, you can't pet a cat like that. And he goes, no, that's the way. And it's like so irritating, and kind of they're drunk and high, that Jose's just sitting there with this WTF look on his face, like he's fed up. And then finally he just gets up. He's like, and you know what? Like, I'm out. I'm leaving. And they're still talking as he leaves. And he's like, hey, I'm heading out, and they're like, what are you going? And then we go to Saul's office waiting room. And the guy's like, the Saul's guy, he's a very loud breather, and he's sleeping and breathing, standing up very loudly. It's interrupting the whole waiting room. And Jose can't even get a time of day. He's like, when's Saul going to be ready to see me? And they won't give him the time of day. So he lights up a spliff or a joint. And I was like, was he smoking a joint? And then the Saul's paralegal says, you can't smoke a joint in here, dude. And then she says, you got to get him out. And then she calls, the bodyguard says, you can't do that. And it was pretty sweet. Like, he blows smoke right in the Saul's guy's face. He's blowing rings. And he does it very rebelliously. And then they're like, okay, you better get in to see Saul. And then Saul had just gotten a massage, like a dual massage, and his flies down. And Jose's got all this money, and he's like, Saul's shocked. Whatever Jose's saying, Saul's like, you can't do this, man. He goes, sit down. And he tries to explain him. He's like, this idea is not going to work. And it was pretty funny because Saul's tie was loose and his shirt was open. And he just looked disheveled. And then he says, is this about Andrea? This I couldn't tell, the Spanish, but I think it was, he said, is this about Andrea or all the money? And then he's like, I think he was like, maybe you could give her part of the money. And then I think Saul said, listen, kid, you got to be realistic here. And then Jose's like, you know what, forget, I'm leaving. And Saul's kind of exasperated. And then he gets into his phone drawer, and he's digging through his phone drawer, and he makes a call. And he's like, we got a problem. And then it's Walt on the other end. And Walt's had an appointment, and he's like, chill, I'll take care of it. And then we see Jose, he's lying on a couch, his head's on the couch, ding dong at the door. And Walt shows up, he's got Jose's money. Walt was wearing khakis and a lime green Oxford. And he's like, I just said it was a very lime green Oxford. And then Walt has this speech he makes in, I can't read my handwriting, incredibly something. And Jose has this like very high school attitude. He's like, dude, I'm so over this, bro. And then Walt is like, this is your money. You can't just, throw your money away. And then Walt gives this really long speech. And then Jose comes back in on him like, he goes, dude, what do you think I was born? He goes, I was born at night, but not last night, bro. I know what's going on. I've put two and two together, Heisenberg. And Walt lies. He's like, Jose, you got to believe me. I'm the victim here. And I'm your father figure. You got to trust me. And he said, I just talked to Mario. He was telling me that he's been fishing for marlin. And he's so happy. And Walt swears on everything. He says, oh, totally crossed my heart, Jose. And Jose, again, he has this, struggle. I guess it's not an Oedipalian struggle. It's like a struggle with his father figure. I don't know if this would happen to, what was that kid, Telemachus or whatever? I don't know. But he gets teared up and he says, oh. And then I think he said, like, dude, I believe you, but I'm not positive on that. Okay, this was another mystery we got a little bit deeper on. So there's a dinner scene, and it's Walt Cielo Jr. And so a couple weeks ago, there was this controversy I had about what was Walt drinking at dinner. Because he had this juice that looked like it was either raspberry iced tea or a pomegranate iced tea. And this time, him and Junior have them, but they looked like a cloudy juice drink. Like not a smoothie. So again, but Junior was drinking it, so it's definitely not alcoholic. But as they're having dinner, Walt's kind of distracted or he's not feeling good. I couldn't get an idea. I have another note here. It says it looked like there was more of a berry element to this drink. So it could have been like a watered down smoothie. I don't know. And I couldn't tell if Junior was in trouble, but then Walt's like gets up. He's like, I'm not feeling good. He has to leave dinner. And then he takes a couple of aspirin and he's still not feeling good. So he goes to sit down. And then he sits down and then he's looking for something to read. And they can't find his, he's like, I need a little William Blake. And then he can't find his book. And he's like, my book's gone. Then we have a scene with Jose driving at night in the rain. And hands. What does that mean, hands? Maybe a shot of Walt's hands as he searches for the book under the bed. He asks Cielo, he says, have you seen my William Blake book? I can't sleep without drinking William Blake. And then Walt says, hey, speaking of William Blake, do you know what's going on with Henry? Is he feeling okay? Does he still, he goes, something strange is going on. And Cielo says, I don't know. And then we see Jose, he's driving, he runs out of cigarettes. And he seems stressed. Then Walt's checking his car for bugs now. Walt suspects something. And he finds a bug on his car. And I'm not talking about the kind that flies. I'm talking about the one, like the NSA kind. And then, I put dumb, because, Walt was all investigating. Then we have Jose. He's passed out in his car. And a guy comes up. He says, hey, can you give me some money? And then Jose tries to give him like a boatload of money, like a stack of cash. And the guy takes it, and then Jose gets this idea, and he starts just driving around, throwing money out of the windows of his cars. And then we have a time-lapse scene, so we know it goes from night to day. And, we see Henry talking to the other agents, and Walt rolls up, and then Henry gets all paranoid. And the agents take off. They're nice to Walt, and then they gotta go back to work. And then Walt's like, I got all these questions for Henry. He's like, hey, Henry, how you doing? And Henry's like, oh, I'm bien, I'm out on Medico. Like, stomach ache was worse than we thought. And Henry looks terrible, again, like I said. And then they play this little chess scene. This is like this is what shows the level of this show. Like, this is Henry's game that Walt is now playing because Henry's an investigator. So Walt's trying to play this manipulation game, but he's not the master manipulator anymore. And I don't remember if this plays out over all the episodes or not. And so then Walt, tries to make small talk, and he says, oh, hey, I was thinking about me and Cielo, but Henry's almost like, there's like the reverse magnetism where he's trying to keep his distance from Walt, and they're going around this table, and Henry's like trying to just keep his distance, as I just said, from Walt. But Walt won't give up. He's still creeping into his space. And then they say, no. And Henry's like, you know what? I got to get back to work, anyway, Walt. Walt's like, oh, no problem. I just want to see how your tummy was doing. And then Walt goes to leave, and he gets to the door, and he stops. And then he looks back, and he comes back, and he shows, this is like, I think this is an error. I can't remember how this plays out, but he shows Henry the bug from his car. And he says, weirdest thing, Henry, there's this bug on my car. It's just so strange. I can't imagine. And this is, Walt just takes, I guess, one step too far out of his confidence. And Henry closes the garage. What a great moment. The garage closes. And he tries to get Walt to talk, and it was just heart-wrenching because I think he said, I don't speak Spanish, but I think he said to Walt how much he's hurt him, emotionally, and violated his trust. And Walt tries to still talk his way out of it. He said, geez, I don't know what you're talking. It's the funniest thing, I don't know who Gus Fring is. And so Walt's trying to talk his way out of it, or I couldn't tell if he was trying to lie or to try to make Henry question his own judgment. I don't know what he's doing. And then Henry can smell it. He says, I'm a police investigator, Walt. I know you're full of it. And then Walt says to him, he says, you know what, in 6 months, none of this is going to matter, so why don't you just drop it? And Henry says, you know what, Cielo and the kids, goes, this is it, Walt. Family's moving in here. And Walt says, oh, no. Don't, I could get, he goes, I don't have my Heisenberg hat. And then Walt said, I think he said one last thing, but I couldn't quite make it out. But Henry, kind of is like, our friendship is over, clearly. So they signed a contract that said, I think he passed him a note. He said, Dear Walt, we're no longer friends. Love, Henry. And then he passed it to Walt. And then that was the end of the episode. Walt said, geez, that's too bad that we're not friends anymore. And then I think That's What Friends Are For started playing, like the song. And the episode came to a close. All right, so we're talking season 5, episode 9 of Breaking Bad. Money it's about. And it opens with a close-up of a skateboard, skateboarding, an old pool. At first, the close-ups were so close, they couldn't tell if it was paper or if it was somebody's skin, with freckles and stuff. But it ended up, it was the Walt's pool. Because it's an old pool. There's, I even put SK8. There's somebody rocking a skate cam. It's Walt's house. It's been long since abandoned. And then Walt pulls up in a maroon. It was either a Caddy or a Caprice. Probably an Oldsmobile Caprice. I don't know if that's the same thing. Very maroon. It was the post-birthday from that opening a while back. He looks like a different it looks a little bit different. He goes past the fence into his house, which is like kind of boarded up. And there's a big old Heisenberg spray painted yellow sign. And Walt looks around. He sees the skaters. He looks, and it's like, what is he looking for? And it's a shot of, then there's a shot of his hallway. And then he's like, oh, where's my Heisenberger recipe? I need the recipe for the Heisenbergers so I can make money with that. And so he takes out a coin out of his pocket, presumably a dime, and unscrews the socket where he hid the Heisenberger recipe. And then he leaves his neighbor Carol's out there, and she sees him. She's in total shock, and Walt goes, hello, Carol. And she drops her bag of groceries. They all stumble out, and the episode opens. But then to further disorient us, we're back in Walt and Skylar's bedroom. It looks great. And there's talking going on in the background, but the camera's zooming in on the bathroom door. And there's a slow pull into it while there's picnic chatter outside, and Hank opens the door, comes out the door, he grimaces. Like only his bottom teeth were showing. He's out of the bathroom. I put a restroom, but it's actually a bathroom. I guess a restroom. You don't call it a restroom at your house. I do sometimes. But he stumbles down the hall, book in hand, and he's moving slow, and then he hides it in the purple. Marie has a purple tote bag. Then we see Walt with the baby, and Marie says, you are the devil. She was meaning it like precocious. Walt's being precocious with the baby. But, Marie's joke was very serious, and Hank's like, I'm not feeling good. We need to shovel off. Or somebody says shovel off. And Hank tries to leave, but Marie wants to play in a bowling. She says, we got to go bowling now that everything's perfect in our lives again. Junior's product placing Pepto. And then Walt grabs the door, like if Hank's car. He's wearing Jesse's watch that Jesse gave him. And Walt talks, what does this say? Walt talks baby, talks Skylar and Junior. Oh, okay, this was after Hank. Hank's like, we're getting out of here. And then they go back into the house, and like Walt's talking to the baby and baby talk, and Skylar and Junior are talking about, well, who's going to drive, who's going to wash the dishes, and who's going to dry the dishes. And then we see Carol from the opening. She's watering her flowers, and Walt says, oh, hi, Carol. How you doing? She's like, oh, nice. And then we're in the car. Marie and Hank's driving. Marie's the passenger, and she's got this Europe envy because Skylar's planning. She's like, can you believe they're going to go to Europe? We need to go to Europe. She goes, we could totally go. We got to go to Lake Como. And then she's like, was it Como or Cuomo? And Hank's not feeling so good. So this, of course, this material's not working on him. And Hank kind of zones out. He's breathing through his nose. So they stop driving. And then later they get home. And then they say, let's just stop at make sure you get some of those nose breathing things. So they get home. As soon as they get home, Hank grabs the book. He grabs the file on Gail, and he heads out to the garage. And we see Gail's handwriting, perfect small handwriting that brilliant people tend to have. My handwriting is neither small nor brilliant nor it's barely handwriting. I think you'd term it claw writing if I don't have a claw, but looks like it could have been. And Hank starts matching with letters. This was nice. I watched this a couple of times. He matches up the W's, then the R's, then the word my, and two copies of Gail's handwriting, one inscribed in Walt's book and the other in his notes. And he even goes like left to right and then right to left, like back and forth. And then it all hits him that Walt is Heisenberg. Then we're at the car wash. Walt opens for the day. He's Mr. Cool Boss, as we covered in the last episode. He's like, hey, what's up, Mariano, Luis, Enrique? He goes, oh, Feliz Cumpleaños, Enrique. You're looking good, buddy. And then Skylar's dealing with customers, and Walt's Mr. Car Wash now. He's like, hey, Sky, air fryer fresheners are a high margin. And Skylar's like, yeah, 30 cents wholesale. And he goes, I think we should reorganize. This is when you go, okay, this Walt's not cut out for this lifestyle. Because I think we should reorganize the display, separate the food sense with the nature sense. I mean, does bubble gum belong anywhere? And this writing is so good. Does bubble gum belong anywhere near no ocean spray? No. And Pine, that's our biggest seller, so we should put it by the 5-hour energy drink. And Skylar's like, whatever, Waltz. It's like you're trying to build an empire of air, and then Walt's like, as a matter of fact, yeah, air fresh. I think we should open a second car wash. We should expand. And at first, Skylar is worried, but then she maybe warms to the idea. And then Lydia rolls up. She's like, I'm here for the regular. And we realize that they have this catchphrase, have an A1 day, that Walt and Lydia, Walt and Skylar use. And then Lydia wants to talk in code to Walt, that they need him back at work. And Walt's like, no, 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 no. And Walt's talking about it. And she's like, just for a week, just come back and help. It's like only a low percentage of purity without your touch. And Walt's like, okay, well, how about some complimentary coffee? Walt just keeps trying to shut Lydia down. Lydia in a box. Lydia's worried about that, getting boxes. And then Skylar's all detective. She comes over. She's like, who washes a rental car, Walt? Who was that? And Walt says, it was a coworker, but I'm not going back. And then Lydia's out by texting, and Skylar rolls up on her and says, get out, don't come back. And Walt kind of hides behind Skylar, which was a nice scene. And then this was an interesting moment. We have this morning scene of Hank. He's standing outside staring at something off camera. And I couldn't tell if he was soaking in nature or just looking off in the distance or looking at something specific. It garnered 4 question marks. So I'll read you the exact notes. Hank A.M., except it looks like Hand A.M., staring down outside his house at... what? ? Nature? ? And Marie's all glad that he's taking a day off to rest, but then his peeps show up, like police peeps with tons of files. What does this say? This is a song that was playing. Jim White's something, Ward Mule or something. It was a good song. Sorry, Jim, I messed up your song title with my terrible handwriting. But a really nice song as they do this montage of Hank going through the evidence. And also good because it gives us this whole recap of the series. This was really like a little taste of old Breaking Bad, this episode. And then we see the Heisenberg drawing, and then it's not, Hank's like, okay, this is definitely it. And then we go for another little taste of old. We get a Badger, Pete, a little taste of them because of course we miss them. And Jesse's sitting in front of a fractal thing, and fractals behind him, and Badger, and it's going off about. I don't know if I should read it. Like he's talking about this. A word mule. That's it. But he's talking about how he wrote this pilot, Star Trek pilot for original Star Trek with the pie eating contest. And it's pretty funny. Enterprise is far. This was, let's see, they're talking about the Starship. It starts out, Enterprise is 5 parsecs out of Rigel, 12. Quiet, so they have a pie eating contest. And Pete's like, what kind of pie? He's like, Tula berries. And then Pete's like, oh, from Gamma Quadrant. And then they're like, you're crossing your series here. That's from Voyager. Like Badger said Gamma Quadrant. So then Pete called him out. So he said, oh, blueberries. So they were going to, it was Spock versus, I don't know, the other guy having an eating contest. Chekhov. And it's just like a good punchline and stuff. And then Jesse's like, dude, I can't sit through you. Like, I can't live this life anymore. And then Jesse leaves. He goes to Salt's waiting room, which is one of the saddest places on Earth. Glory, Hallelujah was playing, I think. Can't read this. Oh, Huel's there. And so Walt says, Jesse wants to get in and see, they're not letting Jesse in to see Saul, so he lights up a cigarette, and at some point he says, yo, yo. So we have this Jesse versus, I don't know what the yo-yo, I couldn't figure that out. Jesse versus Huel smoking a joint, and then Saul comes out. He's in a super lime green outfit, or Jesse has to go in. She says, Jesse Pinkman. She says, Jesse Pinkman, but then Saul's in this lime green getup, and he says, oh, Woody Harrelson, live and in person, pull up a bong and take his seat. He goes, oh, I was actually getting a massage, and his fly's open, and they say, barn door's open, barn door. And Jesse's like, hey, I want to give some money for the Kaylee's college fund. And Saul's like, how much? He goes, $5 million. And then he also asked about, well, he goes, oh, how's the maestro? Things have been too quiet. And I think he kind of leaked out everything. Maybe, I don't know if Jesse already knew everything, but Saul's like, Jesse, you got to, he goes, what are you doing? This is a bridge too far. He goes, you're still going to be 2 miracles short of safehood. He goes, brass tacks, and my job is to advise. My advice is, come on already. He goes, Mike just hit the road to stay out of his business and worry about Jesse. And then he says, listen, kid, get some rest. You've looked better. And he calls, you know who. He says, who's it? He goes, we got a $5 million problem. And Walt's like, I'll handle it. And then Walt says, getting his hearing checked. So then he goes over to Jesse's. Jesse's asleep or something. He's under a glass coffee table. His eyes are wide open, but he's not moving. He's under the glass coffee table. It's covered in crap, cigarette butts and beers and stuff. Knock, knock, knock. Walt's there. And Walt's got his money, and Jesse won't look at him. They're sitting on the same futon, but Jesse's like looking to the side. And he's like, Jesse, this is nonsense. Do you have can you explain yourself? And Jesse's like, I don't want this money. He goes, oh, give me a break, buddy. This is your money. You've earned it. And Jesse's like, I don't want the money. And then Mike's like, Walt's like, what is this with Kaylee? He goes, well, I need to make sure Kaylee goes to college. And then Walt kind of lies to Jesse about, like, did Mike go live on a farm or did he go to live on a farm? And, Jesse's like, dude, I'm no fool. And Walt goes, you are a fool because I'm going to keep lying to you. Jesse, I need you to believe this. Mike's living on a farm. And a happy kind of one. And he goes, he's fine. Don't worry. Totally fine. And even Jesse just decides to play. He goes, okay, fine. Mike's fine. He's at a nice farm. And let's see what else. Well, Jesse wouldn't look at Walt till he said he's out, and then he only looked at him for a second. And Walt said, try to live ordinary, decent lives. Walt just stares and breathes. And then when Jesse wants to talk about Mike living on a farm, he almost cries. He has put it together. He has put it all together. Walt's total BS. I need you to believe me. 32 minutes to look on Jesse, around 32 minutes. He says, yeah, like you. Sad. And then he kind of looks off to the left. Then we're at dinner with Walt Schuyler and Jr. talking college counseling, which was kind of, oh, hey, what's up with that person? What's Lewis going to do? He's not worried, they say. And then we find out bowling's off because Hank's not feeling good. And so Junior gets to go out and hang with Lewis. And he wants to stay up late. Then Walt's not feeling good. But he can't find the leaves of grass. He's like, where? I need to leave. I need some Whitman. Do you think Junior's? And they're like, Junior? Skylar's like, Junior? No way. And Walt's looking around in his tighty whities. He's pausing, and then he pauses, and he's like, huh, is Hank? And the camera kind of pulls in. And then then Walt goes outside in his robe. He snarls. And he turns to go back, and he pauses, and he checks his car, and bingo, he's got a bug on his car. And we see the doghouse in neon, which is a neon sign. It's a hot dog stand. And the neon, the dog wags its tail, and it's eating a string of neon hot dogs. Jesse's asleep in his car. He gives the homeless man a stack of cash, I don't know what a fat stack is versus, what is it? What a rack. I don't know what a rack is. I always want to know what a rack is. And sometimes I find out and then I forget. Yeah, I said, or rack, question mark. Then Jesse just starts tossing his money out with angst. He's like doing some angsty money throwing. And we see a remote control car. Agents are with Hank, dropping stuff off, saying, Steve wants to know when you're going to be back. And Hank says, tell him I already have 2 grandmothers. And then Walt rolls up, and there's this panic look in Hank's eyes. He's hiding evidence while Walt makes small talk with the agents. And then Hank's like, you're on the clock. Get back to work. And then it gets good. It gets real good. Because we have this little back and forth because he says, geez, how you doing here? He says, how are you feeling? And Hank's like, I've been better, but I don't know. And he goes, did you see a doctor? Do you have a doctor's note? If it lasted 3 days, Hank, that doesn't make any sense. And in the background behind them, like they're standing in the garage, there's a kid playing with the remote control car the whole time. And there's still a little inane conversation. Walt's like, do you think it was a potato salad? Because I was worried about that potato salad. And he's like, geez, you're just working out of the garage, huh? Just all by yourself. And Hank's trying to get out of this conversation. But the potato salads, they exchanged looks where subtextually, I think we were like, oh boy. But they're not ready to talk about it. In this second, they're like, well, it's like, okay, if there's anything I can do, feel better, buddy. And then he pat. I guess he patted. And then Walt walks off out of the garage, and he stops and turns. And he said, he goes, you know what, Hank, you're going to laugh, but I got to ask you about this. He goes, I found this on my car. And Hank gets this Cro-Magnon look in his eye, and he closes the garage. And he goes, this is like a GPS tracker. And then Hank says, it was you all along. You drove me and, kept me from the laundry. And Walt's like, calm down. He goes, you lied to me about Marie. You had my number. He goes, you're Heisenberg. You're a liar. And he's like, I'm going to bring you in. And Walt's like, just listen to yourself. These are wild accusations. And he goes, this is bad for our family. And Hank's like, you care about family? And then Walt's like, well, I'm not feeling, I got the big C again. It might be gone. And Hank's like, I don't care. And Walt's like, well, I'm sorry. I'm trying my best to keep my health up. Yeah, because he goes, I don't think you're going to be able to bust me anyway. And he goes, even if you could convince anybody that I'm guilty of anything, but he goes, I'm just somebody that runs a car wash, hand to God. What's the point of coming after me? And all Hank says is, bring Skylar and the kids here and we'll talk. And Walt goes, that's not going to happen. And then Hank's like, I don't even know I can't believe this. I don't even know who I'm talking to. And then Walt goes, you better, Walt goes, if you're trying to take my kids, you better tread lightly, bro. And then there's just this wide shot at the two of them kind of facing off, and the episode ends. I want to say thank you tonight to some of the newest patrons on Patreon. Thank you, Diane L., Caitlin C., Slothborn. Thanks and good night, Gabrielle H. Thanks and good night. Jeff B., thank you and good night. Elizabeth C., thank you and good night. Sandra D to the R, thank you and good night. Jenna M., thank you and good night. Kelly E., thank you and good night. Christian J., thank you and good night. Tina G., thank you and good night. Joseph S., thank you and good night. Kathy W., thank you and good night. Jennifer D., thank you and good night. Annika A., thank you and good night. Victoria J., thank you and good night. Kira W., thank you and good night. Amelia B., thank you and good night. Matt S., thank you and good night. Sarah W., thank you and good night. Chris L., thank you and good night. Sarah N to the R, thank you and good night. Christiana, thank you and good night. Rebecca D, thank you and good night. Walter L, thank you and good night. Vinny M, thank you and good night. Christina S, thank you and good night. Matthew B, thank you and good night. Donna N, thank you and good night. Pamela W., thank you and good night. Carrie S., thank you and good night. Ior C., thank you and good night. Kate at M., thank you and good night. Rhonda B., thank you and good night. Madison R., thank you and good night. Jack M., thank you and good night. And Taylor Ann, thank you and good night. And then over on PayPal, I want to thank Ben L., thanks and good night. And Melissa J., thank you and good night. Tiffany P., thank you and good night. Allison M., thank you and good night. Brian R., thank you and good night. Daniel M., thank you and good night. Tiny, thank you and good night. Samantha H., thank you and good night. Megan M to the R., thank you and good night. Pat W., thank you and good night. Derek W., thank you and good night. And over on Venmo, I want to thank Tom D to the A, thank you and good night. And Nora C, thank you and good night. Thanks and good night, everybody. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Wouldn't be this episode possible without your help.